Now, international express services providers DHL Express has launched a new airline facilities in Dakar, Senegal. The investment is expected to aid the rising demand for the transportation of goods across these markets amid an influx of international interest in the region. To discuss the growth of the express and freight business in West Africa, I'm joined in the studio by Randy Bude. He's the Managing Director for DHL Express Nigeria. Thank you so much, Randy, for joining us on CNBC Africa in the studios today. Now, let's first of all get your thoughts on how technology is changing your business, if at all. One gets the sense that 5 years ago, maybe perhaps even as recent as 3 years ago, there are things you can do now that you couldn't do before in terms of how you can communicate with the rest of the world. Now, is that impacting your business at all?
I wouldn't say it's probably assisting our business. Let's look at the internet now. If you look way back when the fax came on, they said it'd probably put the courier business out of business. It didn't happen. With the internet now, probably the biggest gain for us and in the express industry in general would be online shopping. Right here in Nigeria is a great example. If you look at Jamaica, you look at Conga, everybody shops in line. You got to get these goods in small parcels out to the client. So what we do for these two groups down here, as well as many others, we actually do the last mile distribution for these two companies.
And you're seeing growth in that space, particularly with the retailers?
Exponentially. If you look at B2C, business to consumer, there is tremendous growth, just not internally in Nigeria, but if you look overseas, all the online shopping, people are actually, the trend has changed. They're shopping online nowadays. You got to get these goods to market, and the best way to do it is through the express operators.
And that's clearly coming to West Africa. But let's talk about another factor that could impact your business, and that's the airline business. I see you've made the investment in Senegal, and one gets the sense that shows the weakness of infrastructure in this region. How is this investment likely to change the game for you?
Okay, well, yeah, the addition of the 757 aircraft into Senegal is part of our fleet. We've got 9 aircraft operating here in West Africa now. The 757, real simple, it's an addition to Senegal. It goes directly from Dakar on up to Brussels, and it's a phasing in thing. We started off with 1 day a week. In addition, as I mentioned, we've got 8 other aircraft, and they're based all the way from Senegal down to Ivory Coast, Togo, and Gabon. And Lagos, Nigeria is the gateway. It's the hub. This is where all the aircrafts converge. Overnight, everything goes out in our 767 aircraft to Brussels and then on to Leipzig. And vice versa. Anything coming in from Europe, the rest of the world, will travel in this aircraft down to Lagos, and we'll distribute it 22 cities overnight in West Africa daily.
And so clearly you needed to make that investment because of the weakness of the airline industry, I guess? Yeah, well,
the commercial airlines. If you look at it, most of the passenger aircrafts fly passengers. There's very little belly space or cargo space. The other thing is the unreliability of the airlines. Even if you look at here domestically, this is why we had to put on our own 737 DHL aircraft to fly to Abuja and to Port Harcourt. Only because we didn't have the belly capacity on the commercial aircraft. The other alternative is road, which we certainly don't want to do. We've got infrastructure challenges. We've got all sorts of issues. So what we decided is basically it's ground to air. You've got to put these things up in the air.
And what kind of growth are you anticipating for your business, particularly in Nigeria? Because a lot of people talk about the weakness of our infrastructure. There are moves by the government to try and make some changes, but then again, when you look at you're essentially supporting logistics. So if you're looking at a country like Nigeria where we have issues with roads, we have a very weak rail transport system, how do you win in this environment?
Good question. I wish I had a good answer for it. I'll tell you what, first of all, the express industry, we're a barometer of things happening in this country. Traditionally, we all know oil and energy, oil and gas business. It's been the growth engine of Nigeria. But of recently now, especially with the large consumer market, we've got 160, 170 million people down here. A lot of that traffic is shifting. We see a lot of fast-moving consumer good businesses, retail businesses, the telecoms up here. If you look at the mix of our volumes coming in and out, yes, it's oil and gas, but more and more it's becoming consumer related. Pharmaceutical, life sciences. The whole dynamics of the market has changed exponentially.
So clearly that's where you're seeing growth with respect to consumer goods?
Tremendous growth on that particular sector.
Okay, let's talk a bit about other sectors. The oil and gas you just mentioned. We've seen very little investment in that space in Nigeria recently, but how is that impacting your business?
Well, traditionally, while we are flying these aircraft, as I said, we've got 9 aircraft. These are flying a lot of the oil tools for the oil and gas industry, and that's really the reason why we did set up this aircraft network to actually handle these high volumes. The growth is still there. It's probably not as ambitious as some of the companies would like it to be, but with the infrastructure, as I said, with the aircraft and our ground distribution, we're finding other items to fill the aircraft.
Right.
Our challenge is basically to fill northbound aircraft from here going up to Europe.
Right.
Southbound, we're an importing continent.
Right.
We need the northbound traffic.
Right. Let's talk a bit about partnerships. I know that DHL has announced a partnership with Engine, and they're looking to roll that out in Namibia and then to several other countries. Interestingly, I saw that Nigeria wasn't listed there. But talk to us about how you partner with other businesses in a country like Nigeria to overcome some of those challenges that we've spoken about.
Okay, yeah, good question. Well, let's just take Engine. We partnership with a lot of other companies, but Engine is a good, they have serviced petrol stations throughout the various countries. They're doing a test run as we speak in Namibia. Now, if that's successful, and in all likelihood it will be, they'll roll it out to Ghana, what else? Ghana, the Congo, I think, yeah, Botswana, also right. Kenya and Tanzania. We aren't in this first phase rollout with Lagos, but we are linked up with another petrol company, right. Which we're experimenting right now, and very similar. It's a retail point. So if a client or consumer wants to come in, drop off a package, they could actually, in these particular countries, they could actually go to Engine.
Right.
But we've got other partnerships with other companies, post office. We've got other type of retailer outlets. And we partnership with those.
Well, and staying in Nigeria, a lot has been said about the insecurity in the north and how that has impacted, for instance, the telecom companies. Mm-hmm. Is this impacting your business at all?
Well, yeah, I think the security is a very big impact on our business. More specifically, this is why we put everything up in the air in Lagos. In the old days, we used to run trucks up to Port Harcourt and Abuja. We don't do that anymore because the security is one, but you have other factors there as well. Right. Weather, road conditions, and difficulties en route going to these cities.
Right. I usually like to ask foreign investors about their thoughts about Nigeria, because everyone talks about the challenges, but then it's still a big opportunity. We're seeing companies like General Electric, for instance, make huge investments here. How do you see the future of its economy going forward?
I'll tell you, this is one of our fastest growing markets in Africa, Nigeria alone. If you look at the consumer market, which I've alluded to earlier, it's a massive consumer market. There are just tons of opportunity here. You've got a growing middle class as well, and these are consumers. Just look at the telecom companies, look at the service industry, look at some of the restaurants, look at the shops, your shopping malls. If I look around Africa, this is really one of the prime spots, and I think people are slowly waking up to realize that.
All right, Randy. Well, best wishes as you continue to deal with the challenges here. Randy from DHL giving us his thoughts on the business of express delivery services in West Africa.